really telling, because what you have here is a handful of Democratic leaders who have essentially subverted 14 million Democratic primary voters to unilaterally decide that Joe Biden will no longer be the candidate, and that Kamala Harris, who has never received a single primary vote to be the presidential candidate of this election cycle, that she will serve at the top of the ticket.
What do you think, Teslin Figaro? Should Joe Biden resign altogether and Kamala Harris becomes the 47th president?
No, he shouldn't resign. But just to kind of push back when said that VP Harris did not receive any votes, that's not true. 14 million people did vote for the Biden-Harris ticket. So it's simply just not true to say that she did not receive any votes. But I will tell you, as I said last week, I don't think he should have dropped out the race. I don't think that donors should have had as much influence as they've had. But the bottom line is, right now, in this very moment, 40,000 Black women are organizing on Win with Black Women. They're talking about their 50-state strategy. They're talking about the $60 million that was raised today, and they're counting delegates. So we can sit around and talk about it, but organizing has started tonight. Again, I did not think he should have dropped out. I think he should have stayed at the ticket, but here we are. They're moving forward. The race is Harris versus Donald Trump.
We talked about this, Teslin, in the open. Peter Ducey talked about it a little bit. Are we making too much of the fact that Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, and Barack Obama has not endorsed Kamala Harris yet?
And let me be clear, the voters on the ground, the 40,000 organizers right now will not concern themselves with who endorsed who. I want to be clear. 3,000 Black women wrote a letter to President Biden asking him to stay in the race just this weekend. They asked him to stay in. He decided not to. So those same women have pivoted. And like I said, 40,000 on the phone right now. So it doesn't matter who's endorsed who. And traditionally, President Barack Obama has always stayed out of it and always said it needs to be an open process. So we'll see if someone has the courage. Oh, yeah, well, on the books he has now as far as behind the scenes. But what we do know is the convention's going on. And let's just let Democrats figure it out on their own. Republicans need to worry about those 34 felons on the Trump side.
And that's
they are afraid. And why wouldn't they be afraid of a Black woman? Very much so. Democrats and the rest of the nation are once again turning to Black women to save democracy. And they have, again, stepped to the plate and swung for the fences following Biden's announcement over the weekend, his stunning announcement over the weekend that he would not run for the Democratic nomination. The network Win with Black Women organized a Zoom call to show how prepared and determined Black women were to take on this enormous challenge. And as you could see from the Trump network, Fox News, they are running scared. Oh, she shouldn't be. This is ridiculous and all that crap that they're talking. But I tell you what, Austin Cooper, 40,000 Black women on a call yesterday. 40,000. They had to call Zoom. And get them to the CEO to expand the capacity so that they could have 40,000 people on that call. And within less than 24 hours now since the announcement, Vice President Kamala Harris has raised an astonishing, a record-shattering $60 million. Now that's going to go along with whatever money she and Biden had previously raised, because one of the issues, Austin, that kept coming up, if Biden was to step out, where does that money go? The only place it could go was to Vice President Kamala Harris. Now the war chest is astonishingly hefty, and she is in a position, as you can see, she's scaring the daylights out of them. And Austin, I saw this that really, really, really interests me a lot. Somebody tweeted this, and I want to give that person all the credit in the world, because if this is true, it is, as this person says, I mean, what a move that this was. Did Biden wait until after the RNC was over, where he knew they'd spend the entire week attacking him and not the vice president, and allow them to spend all their money and research on him? Well, as Derek Never Fails on Twitter says, that, people, would be how you protect your vice president and simultaneously level up to master troll. I mean, look, Biden right away said Vice President Harris to have the nomination.
Yeah.
Perhaps knew all week where this was headed.
I mean, certainly, and good morning, Stacey and viewers. Certainly this was, we all knew, and over certainly the last 25 days since the debate on June 27th, uh, knew that it was moving in this direction. There were a couple of moments where I guess many of us were wondering if the president had successfully stopped the bleeding. And then, for me, I think that they just came to the decision that the end was near. No longer a question of if, but
Mhm.
when. Over the last 10 days of show, Senator Schumer has gone to the president, with what I've read was a tough, one-on-one showing poll numbers. Hakeem Jeffries did the same. Nancy Pelosi went, did the same. And I think that had he not stepped down yesterday at 1:46, I guess is when the statement was released. I think today, certainly by tomorrow, Jeffries, Pelosi, uh, uh, and the others would have would have stepped forward publicly and said
Mhm.
that, it's time for him to go. I was supposed to be on the show, Stacey, yesterday, and had, tech problems, wasn't home.
Mhm.
But at yesterday, I was in a weird place. I was frankly pissed off that the president had to step down. I think that it is absolutely disgraceful how our party, the Democratic Party, treated Joe Biden since the debate. Now as I'm on the air, still disappointed, but there is an excitement that was not there
I was not there.
24 hours ago. I remain. I'm very interested. I think it's very interesting. Almost 24 hours after the president pulled out and endorsed Kamala Harris, that Barack Obama has not endorsed her. What the hell is he waiting on? Nancy Pelosi has not endorsed her. What is she
Mm.
waiting on? And AOC hit it on the head with her with Instagram or whatever she did last week, discussing many of the conversations she was hearing in the cloakroom and in other private member discussions, that these folks for the last 3 weeks were not did not only want Biden to step aside, but wanted the whole ticket to be taken down, because there's a lot of racism in our own party that we need to confront.
Mhm.
And I'm excited about the vice president. I'm going to do whatever I can to support her. But don't be surprised. It's going to be a tough battle, not only from Republican incoming,
Mhm.
but from Democratic incoming as well.
Well, and again, they're running scared already. Donald Trump has said that if he's going to debate her, because there's a debate scheduled for, I believe, ABC News is supposed to do the next debate. He says the only way he's going to debate Kamala, reportedly said the only way he's going to debate her if it's on Fox News, if they carry the debate instead of ABC.
It
But
could
listen,
be. It,
they
it,
can debate. They can Newsmax. Anybody can do that debate. Kamala Harris. The one thing about her is she will chew him up, spit him out,
exactly.
and as they say, she will
Exactly.
leave no crumbs with that guy.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
let me tell you something. I was the first scotch in when this happened yesterday. And I want you to know, folks, particularly those that kept calling, "Oh, you want to do this? I got this for you, got that, and let me send you this." Listen, it was Sunday. It was easy like a Sunday. And we got the breaking story in. And look, it was time for scotch number 2. I was relaxed. I was watching the movie. Got time for this.
Mhm.
So
No, whether they have the debate in the Senate Judiciary hearing room, committee hearing room, whether they have it at the White House, whether they have it at the site of the RNC, whether they have the DNC, she will destroy him, and he knows it. I can't imagine his advisors letting him go on stage with her.
listen, Trump,
It would
and
be
this is
it would be
circulating.
suicidal.
Yeah, this is circulating now, and it's made news yesterday. Trump himself in 2010, I believe it was, contributed to Vice President, then prosecutor Kamala Harris's campaign, supporting her, saying what a great prosecutor she is.
Wow,
The
I didn't know that.
$5,000 check is everywhere.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
So, but he's a walking contradiction, as we know. And David, I agree with David Youngblood. He is just simply not, and there's the check. He is simply not going to debate her. And let me break this down to folks. This is another reason why. I mean, Austin is not the only Democrat. I Greer put up somebody else who said that they was in the fetal position. They was upset about the way Biden was treated and that he had to step down. But having said all that and seeing what happened yesterday with the 40,000 black women on the call, on that Zoom call, and the 60 million raised, and now Trump has to face his worst nightmare, which is a black woman. Not he would cower to a black man, but more so a black woman. And just remember, let's not lose sight of these important things to know about Donald Trump, especially for you black preachers who say you're supporting him, especially for 50 Cent and Snoop Dogg and Stephen A. Smith and Byron Donalds and Tim Scott, Waka Flocka, and the rest of them. Think about this. Trump was guilty of violating the Fair Housing Act by denying black people housing as a landlord. He said casinos shouldn't be allowed to be ran on reservations because the Native Americans didn't look like Indians. He said when he would visit one of his casinos in the 80s, he would have the black and Hispanics removed when he brought in dignitaries. He fired a black guy off The Apprentice for being, quote, overly educated. He called for the Central Park Five to be lynched, and to this day continues to call for that. He called for the 4 minority women in Congress to, quote, go back to where they came from. He wanted a Mexican American judge, removed from his so-called Trump University case because he was Mexican. He started the Obama wasn't born in the US claims. And now they starting that up about Vice President Kamala Harris. He claimed Obama wasn't smart enough to get into Harvard or Columbia when Obama, of course, would run circles around him and drown him
In
immediately.
his sleep.
He said African countries, we know what he called them, uh, African countries, and that we should close the borders to immigrations to all countries except places like Iceland. He had a Muslim ban. He's repeatedly retweeted and even endorsed known neo Nazis and white supremacists. Um, and of course, lately he has this fascination with Hannibal Lecter, thinking he's a real person. That is the Republican nominee. And we haven't begun to mention the 34 felonies. We haven't begun to mention the sexual assault, the massive business fraud.
Mhm. And he's been
So this
indicted.
is what she's up against.
And he's been indicted, as we all know, a total of 88 times, 34 convictions. So whatever that, I was never good in math, whatever that difference is, close to 50, a little more than 50. Here's the deal. That Joe Biden would say, here's the deal. If he were to be indicted on those other 50 plus charges this week, the Republicans would still stand united behind him. They would
Needs
not
to be
remove
convicted.
him from the ticket. And that's what disappoints me, that we did not have the same sense of loyalty and dedication towards Joe Biden, who has no felony convictions, none of the nonsense that, he's old. Now, do I think that Joe Biden should have not have run for a second term? Absolutely. Absolutely. The fact that our choices until 1:46 yesterday were two old white men, always concerned me. I just was going to go with Trump, and I know where his heart is. I know where his commitment is.
Biden.
I mean, Biden. I know where his heart is. I know where his commitment is. And I know that he's going to stand up for democracy.
Well, since Biden has bowed out, Trump is now the oldest person in history running for president.
Yes. And they last night must have been a sleepless night for Trump and all of them, because all of the negative charges, the nonsense that he threw at Joe Biden, we should take that and throw all those adjectives, because we have proof, at Donald Trump.
So
Signs of senility. why don't you take a cognitive test? You take an independent cognitive test. We all know that Kamala would do well on such a test. We should just turn the table on him, and I hope we will.
So she now again the momentum. You talk about a difference. I thought Austin, to be honest with you, if he stepped down, if Biden stepped down, and they had to pivot, and even if they had to pivot, if they chose Vice President Harris, I thought, oh, okay, they've waited too long. It's too late. They have really shot themselves not in the foot, but in the head here. But judging from the past 12 hours, I have not seen the excitement that I'm seeing around your party, Austin. I have not seen that at all. That call raised over $1.5 million. It was, I believe, it was a 4 hour. They were on that Zoom for 4 hours or something like that, or more. But it raised $1.5 million. The excitement, even the Clintons, Hillary and Bill, both came out immediately and
Mhm.
endorsed
You endorsed
Vice
it.
President Kamala Harris. I've not seen the excitement at all like this, and so if you are a Democrat, it should now give you the hope. Even though I agree with you that they really, really messed over President Biden, um, they betrayed him in the worst way. But now, even he will tell you you got to move on.
Yep,
And
absolutely,
but
absolutely.
but Austin, have you felt the type of excitement? Not since 2020, not since he and Kamala first ran. I have not seen this level of excitement.
Well, I've not felt this level of excitement about the Democratic ticket since 2008, when President Obama ran, and then again in 2012 when he ran for re-election. No, there is a level of excitement and anticipation and a sense that we can do this, that just was not there. 24 hours ago, certainly 48 hours ago or before. I think it could have been there. And again, I'm going to harp on
Mhm.
President Obama because I'm very disappointed in him. I think that had he come to the White House 24, 48 hours after what we all know was a disastrous debate and said, this man here, Joe Biden, is our candidate, I think a lot of all this other nonsense would have been shut down. Has George Clooney written a piece yet for the New York Times saying that he endorses Kamala? Because
It's
I
gonna
mean,
be hard for a lot of them to get behind a black
exactly,
woman.
exactly, yeah, yeah. All these, all of these, I'd read figures where the figure of about $90 million was being held by the powers that be.
Yeah.
So of that 60 million, I'm assuming that's separate from the
Well,
other
yeah, it
90
is
million
separate.
that's on hold. So I
It
want to
is.
know how much of that 90 million that these folks were holding back on has been committed again to the Harris campaign, or whoever she
Yeah.
puts on her as her running mate, whoever she picks as her running mate.
Well, here's the deal. That you can't, and we had Lauren Burke on, as you know, yesterday and on Friday. And I believe Ron Reynolds may have said this as well, the representative, but that money could only go to Kamala Harris. It
Exactly.
cannot
Okay.
be transferred to anyone else. Um, I see Reese Colbert. I don't want to hear anything about an open process. The time for hypotheticals are over. If you don't want the nominee to be VP Kamala Harris, then put a name on it and tell us who will challenge her.
Amen.
But remember, if your premise is VP ain't ready to take the licks from
Amen.
Republicans, make sure your candidate is ready to take some licks. Be sure that they are ready for the big leagues because VP is battle tested and she got an army behind her. Absolutely spot on tweet. Yeah, wouldn't
Mhm.
expect anything less from Reese. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. And it was so frustrating over this last 24, 25-day period since the debate to hear when you asked Democrats who were calling for President Biden to step down, well, who would you, are you in support of the vice president stepping in? And oftentimes, for my comfort, they would say, well, we have a strong backbench There's only one person on the backbench,
That's
and
it.
that's the vice president.
That's it.
All this kind of code language
The
that
the
folks,
only talk should be who would be the vice president.
yeah,
That's the only discussion that needs to be had. And along in that vein, Austin, who do you think um would make a solid ticket with her?
I think I think it had to be a white male to give white folk comfort, and to also, it had to be geographic balance. I think it's necessary. Um, the governor of North Carolina, I
I
think it's
understand he's on the
yeah,
list.
yeah.
Yes.
The governor of I think it's Kentucky. Certainly the governor of Illinois.
Mhm.
Um,
Pritzker.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I like Governor Whitmer out of Michigan. I just don't think that America can handle two
Yeah, you
women
cannot
on
run
the
2
ticket
women, unfortunately.
at one time. I like,
Timothy Williams says a straight white male.
mhm, yeah, yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, Pete Buttigieg
But
would
wait
be
a
there.
minute,
He's
that
gay.
eliminates
America's
Buttigieg.
not ready for that, huh?
That would eliminate Buttigieg.
Exactly. I was just about to suggest Buttigieg, but I don't think America's ready to have a gay man on the ticket. But he would be a great choice.
Um,
He would be an excellent choice.
yeah, it's certainly and listen, it's probably not going to be Gavin Newsom because I think Gavin Newsom's sights are set on the presidency eventually. But he has, to his credit, immediately. He's one of those governors that immediately came out endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris for
He
president.
did. He did. I didn't know. Okay.
So yeah, he did. He wasted no time doing that. And David Youngblood says if we're going for the bleachers, it should be Whitmer. Um, Power 96 says her VP has to be a younger version of Joe Biden. She will need those Midwest votes.
Mm,
Shapiro, Pennsylvania, Southbound
yeah,
3000
yeah,
says Shapiro. He's on her list. From what speculation is, he's on her list as well. She has to pick someone from one of these swing states, and Pennsylvania would, might be the one because the latest so-called polling, that's where Trump has the biggest advantage in these so-called swing states right now. It seems like the latest poll was like he was up 5, maybe even 6 points in Pennsylvania, and so it might come down to that. Do they strategically, Austin, generally pick a vice president where they feel like they can get an edge in that particular state, where they need an edge in that state?
That's always been the case. 1960. JFK, Northeast, Massachusetts. Lyndon Johnson. The South. Barack Obama, Illinois, Joe Biden, Delaware, which would, the Northeast region, in addition to the current president, bring in the foreign policy and statesman chops that Barack Obama did not have. On the other side, I never thought that Marco Rubio stood a chance of being selected as Trump's running mate because they're from the same state. I mean, what
Right.
geographic balance is he going to bring? And there was folks saying that he would get the Cuban vote, but he's already got the Cuban vote. So I never thought, and I always felt that he would select J.D. Vance, which is interesting because now again the whole who's the person who said the president was very strategic in letting the Democrats beat the hell out of him for a week,
Yes.
and now he's not even the candidate. I
Yeah.
think that there is some they can't do anything about it now, but there's certainly some rethinking of his selection. Abortion, no exception. Rape, incest, no exception. Divorce, even if you're in an abusive relationship,
Yeah,
no
JD
exception.
Vance is
I
like,
mean,
nope.
crazy. And now he's got a woman. We have a woman at the top of our ticket. I just think there is an interesting shift. Stacey, I said to you and Greer and others that if it was going to come to this, I was hoping, I guess it's not going to happen, but part of me is still hoping that the president will step down completely and allow, give that additional boost behind the vice president to arrive in Chicago next month for the Republican convention on Air Force One as President Kamala Harris. I
So
don't
y'all
think
think,
happened,
for our viewers, I want to ask that question, Austin. Do y'all think that would make some sort of a difference if Biden completely steps down? I'm asking you guys, Power 96, Timothy Williams, Mike V, David, et cetera, Southbound, et cetera. Asking all you guys, would that make a difference if Biden stepped down completely right now and allowed Vice President Harris to become president right now, headed into the convention? Would that make a difference, as Austin is articulating he would like to see happen at this point?
and
Um,
and in addition, Stacey, it would be an additional crown on the Joe Biden legacy. He
mhm.
stepped aside, and at least for 6 months, 7 months, we had a woman as president of the United States. And folks on the Republican side, I was listening to some Republican pundits talking about this cannot be a coronation. Why not? Why can't it be a coronation? We had a
Donald
coronation of
Suggs
Hillary
says it'll
Clinton in
make a huge
2016.
difference. Yeah, Donald Suggs of the Atlanta Voice says, he writes in that it would make a huge difference if VP Harris was the first Black female POTUS. Huge, he says. David says, yes, it would make a statistical difference. Timothy said, I would love that. I think it would boost some people to move. So it seems like the early returns are that, yeah, it would certainly make a difference, Austin. And Greer says she agrees 100%. So
Mhm. And that
maybe
way,
that
any internal dissension that's going on right now about how to knock Kamala Harris off the ticket would just, to me, be silenced.
96 also says something that Greer and I have been saying. He says, let Joe Biden sign all kinds of executive orders and then step down. Um, yeah, listen, I tell you, yesterday I talked about how now he has the freedom, the real freedom to pardon his son. But as Lauren mentioned, there's others that he would certainly benefit. I mean, there are some folks that if he were to pardon, it would further galvanize, and I can't pronounce homeboy's name in Philadelphia, Mamul,
I know you're talking about. Yep,
you know
yep.
who I'm talking about.
Mhm.
I can't think of it. You guys, you let us know. Let me tell me who he is again. But I tell you, Snoop Dogg and running around Trump pardon Harry. Yo, if this guy, if Biden pardons my man in Philadelphia, it's a wrap.
Right. That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
David. I can't say I can't pronounce his name, but yeah. And David, I've been saying this, Austin, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about yesterday. Unfortunately, you had a bad connection, but yeah, Abdul Jamal. Yes,
Yeah.
Mike B.
Yeah.
Thank you. Um, David says he is, after all, the king. Talked about this a little bit with Lauren yesterday. The Supreme Court made their decision that essentially the president is just that, a monarch. The president is uh immune to things. He has complete control. He can do whatever he wants.
And they made a
Um
mistake by not being specific and saying President Trump. They just left it broad. So
right.
President Biden, go for it.
That's all I'm saying.
And we're
That's
not
all I'm
talking about
saying.
any illegality here. We're not talking
Okay.
about taking out, political opponents. None of that. We're talking
Okay.
about doing what
Yeah.
should, pardoning Marcus Garvey. I mean, just get that pen out and start signing.
Just start signing executive orders on affirmative action, everything else, whatever you could think of. Um
I got to say this, Stacey. Since the quote assassination attempt, end the quote, against Trump, which was horrific, but there was so much talk by him and others of there being a new Donald Trump, a softer Donald Trump, which I never believed. I mean, I just said nothing, even dodging an assassination attempt is not going to change Donald Trump. And yesterday, if he had any ounce of decency, which he
any
doesn't, if he had any ounce of decency, would you have heard him to issue a statement just saying, "I wish Joe Biden all the best"? He
yes.
was a formidable opponent
Yes.
and leave. And I look forward to discussing the issues confronting the American people with Kamala Harris, the new nominee. Instead,
Oh,
he attacks him, last night, it was the night before at some, no, last night, Saturday at the rally, still going in, Joe Biden's, senile and old. Kamala Harris is crazy. And to your point, still talking about Hannibal Lecter and, asking the crowd, would you rather be eaten by a shark or electrocuted? Neither. Neither. Putting that stupid question to me. And the people eat it up.
and this
They eat
happens,
it up. It's crazy.
and this happened just 1 week after the president and more than once called Donald Trump because he didn't get him. From what I
Yes.
understand, the first
Yes.
couple of times, he
Yes.
still reached out and finally got him to see was he okay, to offer his heartfelt "I'm glad you're okay" type stuff. And you mean to tell me 1 week later, even if you believe your own rhetoric that this man, th- especially if you believe your rhetoric that Biden is unfit, that he has some form of dementia or whatever, then why are you attacking this man? Because you attack, I'll tell you why, because you attack Nancy Pelosi's elderly husband who was attacked with a hammer, and you made fun of that.
Made jokes about it at public
You made
rallies.
jokes about it. You wanted your vice president. The reason why you had to get a new vice president is because you had you basically endorsed your former vice president being hung
Mhm,
or hanged.
mhm, mhm.
So and then this I'm glad she brought that up because I was just about to
This
go there.
two-time,
This guy,
what here?
Joe Manchin, considers rejoining Democrats to run against Vice President Harris now that Biden has stepped aside. This right here is what Black folks face all the time. And Kamala Harris, obviously, this guy sees this Black woman, essentially the Democratic base anointing her as the nominee. And so right away, his racist genes kick in and take over. There's no way I could let this happen.
Mhm, mhm.
And so he jumps right into the fray. This guy stepped down. He's leaving the Senate. If you wanted to run for presidency, see, he wants it handed to him.
Exactly, exactly. No, he has always been in
Trash.
Donald Trump's pocket.
Yes.
And, you know, uh yesterday morning he was on one of the news programs I was watching. I forget which one, and was lauding all of the president's accomplishments. But it's time for him to step aside. I looked at him and said, if the president does step aside, he's going to run. I just didn't know if he was going to run as an independent or if he was going to run as a Democrat. And look at the idiot wants to run as a Democrat.
Yeah, Timothy said he told Cassie Hunt on CNN this morning he would not be her VP. She wouldn't. She's one of the. She'd pick Vance over him. I mean,
Hmm.
she
Hmm.
would listen. Know your enemies. Keep
Yeah,
them close, and this guy is a complete enemy of
I
the
agree.
of your party, Austin. He's a complete enemy of the Democratic Party
And had been for some time.
and of Black
Has
folks
been,
in
yeah,
general.
yeah. No, no, no. He's been undependable as a
Undependable.
vote
He's been
in
such
the
a
Democratic caucus
treasonous
for years.
individual.
So it's nothing new here, and it just reeks of racism
Racism.
in that hillbilly state.
Yeah,
Excuse
I
me,
mean, think
say that.
about it. The George Floyd Justice and the Police Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, the Freedom to Vote Act, all sit on the sidelines, untouched, not passed because of that one man.
Hmm. Hmm.
Every
And Tim
interest,
Scott, and let's not leave out Tim Scott and
and
Tim
don't
Scott.
leave out Tim Scott. Yep. David Youngblood says Manchin has done more than anyone to undermine Democrats. There's no question about it.
Hmm.
No question about it. When he had that moment in the sun where his vote was the determining factor in the House, in the Senate for everything, and he made sure to leverage that. I mean, holding press conferences, walking around like he was the president.
Yep. And I don't think I'm breaking, I hope I'm not breaking protocol here, Stacey, but when we were, had that meet and greet with the president of the Oval Office after the State of the Union last year, I forgot which reporter asked the president again, asked him when he was expressing, concerns about the George Floyd Police and Reform Act,
Yes.
and specifically Tim Scott. And someone said, have you thought of bringing him down to the White House? And the president said, I've tried everything. I've had one-on-one conversations. I've sat with him here in the Oval Office. I just don't understand what's going on.
Yeah,
And
and so and off the record, somebody else was very bold, but off the record, of course, and I don't blame that individual for being off the record, but basically broke it down that this, you're dealing with a straight up liar is what this individual
mhm,
was saying on that day. I remember it like it was yesterday. We
mhm,
had a lot of fun that day in the Oval Office. And prior to going into the Oval Office, um, our girl, you know who I'm thinking of. Uh, gosh, why is her? You know who I'm thinking of, Austin? We
cool.
sat with. We joked
Oh,
about
oh,
Kareem.
last name is Woods. I think I'm forgetting her name. Yeah, yeah. I know you're talking
Um,
about. Yep.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun that day, but a lot of things were learned too that day. Like Austin says, that was you don't want to take too many liberties because that was totally Morgan, of course. When you think about
Morgan. That's
Morgan,
right. Morgan Woods. Yep.
but that was it was totally off the record. It was an off the record type day. We went to the vice president's office and then we went to the Oval Office, but um it was interesting that the Tim Scott and Joe Manchin feedback was nothing short of these guys cannot be trusted. Put it that way, they
Hmm.
cannot be trusted. Um, but we'll see, Austin. It's going to be interesting to see how this is. You know, who's going to be the vice president on the ticket. She's gonna get the nomination. I mean, listen, at this point, it is complete suicide if she doesn't get the nomination. And somebody's mentioning Van Jones. Yeah, Van Jones is a waste of. He's a waste of time. He's a waste of space. He's a waste of energy. He is a waste of a human being. Um, I'll just
So
leave it
tell us
at
how you
that.
really feel, Stacey. What do you really think of him?
I'll leave it at that. But nonetheless, we'll see as this thing goes further along. But I tell you what, Austin, they need to keep this energy if they hope to do damage in November.
No, no. I mean, we have no choice but to keep the energy. The energy is there. As you and I both agreed earlier. Certainly more so. What is Megan McCain saying? Point
I
taken.
can't get over how ill-served
Point
President
taken.
Biden was
Agreed.
by his family members. Give me a break. She's a trip.
And she's shaky. Yeah, yeah. She's shaking her political. But I happen to agree with her on this how he was treated by
Yeah, but
Democratic
you know
family
what?
members. But
As if she
McCain
cared.
is McCain is Megan McCain is shaky with her political views.
Well, I mean, she has her privilege and that she will not lose, and she makes sure to show that. And as much as Trump was merciless when it came to her father, Biden was very merciful when it came to her father.
Absolutely.
And so this is Mike V says waste of a Negro.
And what I'm looking for,
And listen, wait, Austin. I'm glad David said that too because I want your thoughts on that. He says you better watch out for the donor class trying to undermine Harris.
absolutely, absolutely, exactly the point I was trying to make earlier. I keep saying a lot of this was not necessarily, well, not only directed at Joe Biden, but also directed at the vice president. There was talk of, well, what if Joe Biden doesn't, can't make it through a second term, for illness or whatever. That's why you have a vice president.
That's it.
That's why you have a
That's it.
vice president. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. The vice president steps in. And so I think there's a lot of truth to what AOC said in that Instagram posting. And you said that was David. I think David is absolutely right. By
100%.
which is why, again, I go back to my point. I really wish that the president, he got 6 months left in office, would do whatever executive orders he's going to do and step down before the convention and further cement the candidacy of a president, Kamala Harris.
Yeah, Ida Bae Wells, she trips me out. Kellyanne Conway just said on Fox News that Kamala Harris doesn't speak well or work hard. Rich considering who she worked for,
Thank
and
you.
laughable
Thank
because
you.
we've all heard the VP speak. The racist dog whistles have begun, and they're no longer dog whistles. They're no longer dog whistles,
They
and
haven't
they're
been
not
for a
going to
while.
be.
They haven't
They're
been
they're straightforward,
exactly.
straight out racist.
And more is going to come. But Stacey and Greer and everybody, what I also want to see, and I don't think I'm going to see it. It's also disappointing about this political process. Where is George W. Bush?
Oh, that's a good question.
Where is Jeb Bush?
Well,
Where is Liz
more
Cheney?
so George W. because
Where
Jeb is
where some of these, the many folks who left, senior officials, Mike Kelly, General Kelly, and some of the other senior officials.
Mhm.
It annoyed the hell out of me that none of them had publicly endorsed Joe Biden. So I guess it's unrealistic for me to expect them to endorse Kamala Harris. They should, but they should.
They should, right? Well, Austin, yeah, Nikki Haley PAC donated to the Harris campaign. Wow, I didn't see
Wow,
that, Mike V.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. Mike V also says he would like to see Black NBA and NFL players step up with contributions to the Harris campaign. Well, it's interesting that he says that too, because the baseball and football owners, particularly football owners, they have continually outwardly put their money behind Donald Trump.
Hmm.
So it would be interesting to see the players what they would do. We know Aaron Rodgers is a big time Trump guy. Uh, Now the New York Jets quarterback. Um, but that so was Brett Favre, and Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers both played for the Green Bay Packers at one point. And Brett Favre, of course, we know what he's accused of down in Mississippi. So he would certainly, it would behoove him that Trump becomes president. Um,
Absolutely. But I mean, again, I'm just hoping that Democrats, we as Democrats, unite behind Vice President Harris in a way that we did not do President Joe Biden. We have to look forward. Cannot continue to look to the past. She's going to come under some serious, negative attacks. And
Mhm.
whatever those attacks are, we need to unite behind her and stand up for her. Everybody has, skeletons in their closet. So I just think that whatever comes up, they're going to go for her jugular, and we
Oh,
need to have our hands around her neck to make certain that they are not effective in their attacks with this sister.
and this young Baltimore mayor, Scott, who continues to show maturity well beyond his years, experience well beyond his years, he tweets that this is a message for all, just so that we are clear, especially my fellow Democrats. Vice President Kamala Harris is the only choice for the nomination. Now let's go win the election and save our democracy. Um, it's just, uh, you know, it should be just as simple as that for that party, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. Project 2025. We gotta mention another aspect of Project 2025. So the Center for American Progress noted that the Project 2025 would eliminate protections and exploit what would be former child labor laws. It's all laid out on page 595 of this 922-page manifesto. Is what it is a manifesto. And the Center for American Progress noted that the elimination of protections for young workers, if enacted, would, of course, predominantly affect Black and brown folks, and it would lead more children to work in dangerous places such as factories and slaughterhouses, as well as increase the likelihood of injuries and death to the benefit of greedy corporations. The Project 2025 proposal states the Project 2025 proposal and the trends, I should say, seen in states are particularly alarming given the recent child labor enforcement data from the U.S. Department of Labor. Since 2019, Austin, there's been an 88% increase in cases where children were found to be employed in violation of child labor laws. In fiscal year 2023 alone, the Department of Labor assessed more than $8 million in penalties, and which is an 83% increase from 2022. So the exploitation of children would be a part of what we would get as part of Project 2025.
Well, a part of me is surprised, or although I guess after years of Trumpism, at least almost 10 years of Trumpism, I should not be. A part of me, though, is still surprised that they actually put this craziness in writing, not only on this topic but others. And I would encourage, my Democratic Party to come out with our own Project 2025. That's a response, a humanitarian Project 2025 for all Americans, not some. And I think that we should go chapter by chapter, 900 pages. I forgot how many chapters
922.
are in it. But each of those topics we need to have before the convention, certainly before Labor Day, have our response to Project 2025 in writing, just like these folks. Maybe perhaps it's Brookings Institute or some of the more liberal think tanks. But we need to have our response to Project 2025 so that folks, the voters, can compare.
Well, I would imagine, Austin, that this was a document that was not just
Piece
weeks
together.
in the making. This is years in the making.
Mhm.
So it would take some time, but really, with this Project 2025 and the counter, Austin, is simple. It seems simple enough. Just make sure people know what's in that document. And
Absolutely.
the counters are very easy. This is like we talking this morning. One part of Project 2025 we're talking about this morning, child labor. You don't want who wants what beast, what bombastic beast want children to be put in that type of danger?
Trump.
That's your comeback.
Hmm.
Highlight that, right?
Absolutely.
Highlight how they want to exploit it. Child labor, among so many other things. We've talked about getting rid of the Department of Education.
Education.
That's part of Project 2025.
Hmm.
Mike V says, "Lift Every Voice" was the response to Project 2025. Power 96 says a teenager died while working underage at a Mississippi poultry plant. He was 16 years old. It's one of thousands upon thousands of cases. That's what you do to counter it
Absolutely.
on a regular basis.
And you talked about this on previous shows during the convention, Stacy, where nobody spoke about Project 2025 at the convention. An entire week. Donald Trump did not once reference Project 2025. J.D. Vance did not once reference Project 2025. Donald Trump has said, there are some things I agree that a lot of stuff I think is crazy in there. I have nothing to do with it. At least a significant number of writers are supporting his candidacy. And the fact that it was released by the Heritage Foundation tells you all that you need to know about what direction the report is going to go in on all of the issues that are covered in those 900 plus pages.
Well, look at that tweet right there. The New York Times will not pivot to negative coverage of Trump. CNN will not start holding him accountable. Anyone hoping that this was some some tests, I guess, Democrats passed is about to be sorely disappointed. They are in the bag for Trump, and we are on our own.
Mhm.
That is, listen, I couldn't agree more. Mikhail Jolette is the one who wrote that tweet. Roland
Mhm.
Martin reposted it. I couldn't agree more that mainstream media is not that they're still focused on the Secret Service need to be investigated. What went wrong? They're going to testify before Congress. Listen, investigate the death of the individual that was killed there, right?
Thank you.
Investigate that. Trump was not shot, folks. He was not shot. Um, and he may not have even been the target, as far as
Mhm.
we know. He may
Mhm.
not even have been the target.
Mhm.
He may have been collateral damage when that shard glass flew and
Pierced his ear.
nicked his
Yeah.
ear. That so he was so hurt that he didn't even go and see a real doctor. Eric Holder, there's no cavalry coming, no miracle solution, no saviors. In the end, we, the American people, not any of our institutions, have to save our democracy by voting in defense of that democracy this fall. We are the cavalry. The responsibility is ours, is what Eric
And
Holder.
Eric Holder should have ended that statement by saying, I'm endorsing Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Yeah. Yep. Um, and that, these, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what these Obama Democrats are going to be doing.
Mhm.
It's going to be very interesting. We still have not heard from Obama on the Kamala Harris thing. Somebody mentioned earlier that he doesn't usually he usually waits until the convention. That's not necessarily true. I mean, he campaigned for Biden and Harris, 4 years ago, and he's stumped for other folks.
Mhm.
And and that was, when I mentioned that the fact that he campaigned for them some years ago, wasn't that prior to the convention that he began once they became the presumptive nominee?
Absolutely.
And listen,
I want to hear that, President Obama and others are organizing major fundraisers for Vice President Harris. They can do at least one,
I wonder.
probably two between now and the convention. Go back to Radio City Music Hall, go back to California, whatever you need to do. But that's what he needs to do, and George Clooney and all the others.
I wonder this planned fundraising event by David Letterman, I believe it's June
Yeah,
27th. I
yeah,
wonder if that's
that
still a
might be the one. Yeah.
go. I wonder if that's still going to happen.
Mhm.
I've not heard anything that it is not. I've not heard that Letterman is not supporting the vice president.
Mhm.
Um, and Power 96 makes this point too, and I agree. He says the Clintons are on board with Harris, so why are black politicians and others waiting? Are they scared? But I also, I thought he was going to go here with it, but I think that because the Clintons have come out immediately, I think you'll see others fall in line, and um, there have been. I had a lot of quotes. His quote from Governor Hochul in New York: "I'm proud to stand beside Kamala Harris. She is the right candidate to unite our country. I am confident she will deliver." Governor Roy Cooper: "Kamala Harris should be the next president." Governor Janet Mills: "I look forward to continuing to work with President Biden for the remainder of his term and to do everything I can to elect Vice President Harris." Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey: "Kamala Harris has been an outstanding VP and
Good.
has what it takes to be an even better president." Governor Gavin Newsom: "Tough, fearless, tenacious. With our democracy at stake and our future on the line, no one is better to prosecute the case against Donald Trump's dark vision and guide our country in a healthier direction than America's vice president." Yes,
Excellent.
and somebody says, "Where's the
Yeah.
CBC?" I see Josh Shapiro statement, but the CBC is also issuing individual statements. Joyce Beatty, I stand with you in endorsing Kamala Harris to lead Democrats to victory. Lisa Blunt, Rochester, there is no better person or leader more equipped to do so than Vice President Kamala Harris. Jamal Bowman, Vice President Harris is the most qualified and best choice to lead us forward. Congresswoman Shontel Brown, I'm proud to endorse at Kamala Harris. And it goes on and on.
Clyburn is also endorsing.
Clyburn, Yvette Clarke. So they are there. They are certainly there. It's again the elephant in the room, or the elephant that has not entered the room, is Barack Obama.
Hopefully
Mr.
he will.
Gabak, you go
Hopefully he
on, baby.
will.
Me.
Hopefully, I'm hoping that he does this week. It concerns me again that he and Pelosi have not. Almost 24 hours after the president stepped down and endorsed.
Yeah. Well, Power 96 says DL Hughley's tweet is directed to those clueless black men. He said it well. If Greer, before we close out, if you can post that tweet one more time. I did miss it as I was going through these other statements that keep pouring in. But DL, I've been following DL Hughley on this for a while now, and he has just
Love him.
been all over this. He says, "Wait a minute, you're so mad about Kamala Harris being prosecutor, you're willing to vote for a felon."
That summed it up. One sentence.
That sums it up. Austin, we appreciate you very much as always. Thanks for enlightening us even more, because that's what you do.
I do my best, brothers. Thanks to you and Greer for always inviting me. I enjoy this.
Absolutely. And folks, go to our YouTube page and the Let It Be Known YouTube page and hit subscribe. Don't leave without hitting subscribe. Come on, y'all on YouTube. It's a lot of y'all on YouTube. I'm looking at my screen to the left, and it is a lot of folks on YouTube this morning. So hit subscribe. Don't leave without hitting subscribe. And you know what? As the week unfolds, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more that unfolds with this race. So we will be talking more and more about this. And of course, we got a resource like Austin. So we're going to be good to go. Thanks, Austin. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.